Not about kind of the kids that were mostly playing in console games. It was about the adults that were trying to find kind of a D&D almost experience through PC gaming. And so by the time the mass market of consoles takes over, right, and becomes the prominent way of gaming, which happens in the late 90s and really the early 2000s is the renaissance of the console. The PC gaming takes a backseat that it's enjoyed to this day, right? And so that's why you have a lot of niche adventure gaming on the PC, but it's just not the kind of popular that it was back in the golden age of the PC because the consoles are here. And the consoles don't have a lot of, at least before, recently, they don't have any kind of interface that really allows for a fluid experience inside of an adventure game. I agree with that 100%. But Prangerade mentions a very interesting concept that I have to bring out, and that is this. There is a renaissance of motion gaming now, right? It's not consoles anymore. It's the fact that you have this motion experience. PlayStation Move, Nintendo Wii, right? Xbox Kinect. And I think with that, you find some really interesting possibilities. So many interesting possibilities, in fact, that I think a resurgence in adventure gaming could be coming. But before I tell you everything I think about that, let's just point out the fact that Prangerade talked about the mass effect of consoles, or mass effect, listen to me, the mass market of console gamings taking over as being part of the diminishing nature of adventure games proper. Nightcrawler mentioned and I really wanted to highlight, Nightcrawler had several good points, but I want to put this out here as well, that the atmosphere of adventure games was the point beyond anything else, right? So the point-and-click adventure, we all understand the dynamic of the game. The actual mechanics of the game took a big backseat to the experience of the ambiance of these games. The Seventh Guest is a classic experience, not because it's one of the best point-and-click adventures of all time. It is, but because it sucks you into this world. Now, whether the full motion video impacts you or not is neither here nor there. But the world of Stoff's mansion is just fantastic, right? It's a setting that just, as Nightcrawler says, it kind of oozes out to you. It's something that really just says, this is a highly stylized work of art, of which you are partaking at this particular moment. And I could not agree more. I think that's a fantastic contribution, Nightcrawler, and I think that is what differentiates so many of the great classic adventure games from what we see now. Now, does something like Skyrim, as an RPG that has a lot of adventure elements to it, have that same kind of feel? You're absolutely right, it does. In fact, I think one of the reasons why I am absolutely tempted to get out there and get Skyrim, although I haven't done it to this point, is not at all for the RPG elements. It's for those adventure elements. Being able to travel to these amazing worlds and see all these incredible scenes and so on and so forth. And a lot of the reasons I would play an MMO are the exact same reasons I would play an adventure game. But it's worth noting, and Nightcrawler brings this out completely, the idea of having one complete package in which we have this tremendous world that's been thought out by someone that we get to walk into almost through the glass, right? That is the essence of adventure gaming that I think is really unmatched in these times. Go check out some of the YouTube of the classic Roberta Williams adventure games, and I think you will see to a certain degree how Phantasmagoria, for example, how there is this kind of whole world that just sucks you in. And I'm not sure that really happens anymore. I remember the beginning of Morrowind, Elder Scrolls, where you kind of walk in and it kind of shows you how the first person is going to work in this game. And I have reminiscence of some of the old adventure games there as well. So it's an interesting tie-in, and I give you guys a lot of credit for tying those things together. Before I jump on, I want to say that I thought Sly, who helped me through some of the puzzles during the marathon, and is a new contributor to the Weekly Wringer as well. Sly, welcome, welcome. Sly had a post here, folks, that tells the entire story. If you don't know, you should read all of Sly's post because it is absolutely fantastic. It will take you from top to bottom in exactly how the adventure game came to prominence and how it lost prominence. And it features some of the very same things we've talked about here. Look, folks, here's what I'm going to say from my perspective. All right? The adventure game is not dead. The adventure game lives maybe in a small kind of way in many of the games that you and I love today. And I've talked about many of them, whether it happens to be in the action RPGs of the Zeldas of the world, or it happens to be inside the worlds, the massive and immersive worlds of MMOs, or the massive and immersive worlds of, say, a Skyrim, and the RPGs that we all come to know and love today. Adventure games are alive there. But point-and-click adventures aren't dead either. And I think there are some really amazing entrants to this that we can talk about. And it's not just Telltale. The unfortunate part of this discussion is that many of the adventure games are relegated to second-class citizenship, the niche, right? I have, there is a company out there called Big Fish Games, and they create a lot of really cool games that I think you guys should check out. You know, they're known for kind of the Nancy Drew stuff, I think, mysteries, but forget that for a second. They've done some really cool games, and one of the ones I want to talk about is the Mystery Case Files, specifically Dire Grove, which I actually bought. It was actually a game that I was trying to find for a long, long time. I found it, I bought it, and I haven't played a ton of it, but I will tell you it really does keep that kind of experience of this world that sucks you in and brings you into this game where you kind of solve puzzles. And even though this is more like, at times, it seems to be a little bit more like a highlights book. And I know that any of you that went to the doctor's office or a dentist's office as a kid know what I'm talking about with highlights. But it's more like a highlights book. But in any case, it was a little easy. For those of you that are looking for really challenging puzzles, you're not going to find it there. But it is a great immersive world, and that's an adventure game that's doing the job. And I know a few years ago there were a few other adventure games that I thought were just really awesome. One was a retelling of my favorite Agatha Christie book, which is And Then There Were None. Was just an awesome game, and I played it for many, many hours. Really, really well done. Shows what the possibilities of adventure gaming can be. But let's get back to what I really wanted to talk about, which is the fact that adventure gaming could be on the cusp of something amazing. And the reason why is not just because of the kind of phone-based touch, which is where Seventh Guest and 11th Hour are seeing a resurgence. And now, something like Trilobite Software comes back with Rob Landeros at the helm, which I think is a wonderful thing. But that's one piece. But the idea of using motion controls to control an adventure game in the point-and-click fashion of the days of old, to me, just warrants so many awesome kind of possibilities. I could see so many of these amazing adventure games getting a resurgence and getting a rebirth, and new games coming into prominence, a la Seventh Guest, with the ability to control through motion controls, whether it be the Wii or whether it be Kinect or PlayStation Move. I think there are so many great possibilities. Think of the possibilities, folks. Being able to draw out something out of an inventory instead of just kind of throwing it at the screen. Being able to maybe use something, right? You go get an item out of your inventory, you take it, and then you use it to do whatever it is you're doing. That might be a little more action adventure, and maybe some of you could throw that right back in my face and say, well, that's just action adventure. But that's not the only possibility I'm talking about. The potential to kind of read through a book that you find as a clue, right? Instead of having to just kind of click through something. There are so many great ideas in adventure gaming right now that I think could be brought to prominence through motion gaming, that I think it's very possible we could see a resurgence in adventure gaming moving forward. And I hope we do, because playing through some of those old CDI, the classic point-and-click adventures during the marathon, really just kicked up my nostalgia for those old games, and I can't wait to see what people put on it. That being said, I think the Jurassic Park from Telltale Games looks fantastic, and it's definitely on my Christmas list. So I'm definitely going to be going out there to take a look at it, because I find that those kinds of games really enthralling, even though it does have a lot more action elements. So, is the adventure game dead? Absolutely not. Whether it's in the point-and-click a part of life of video gaming, or whether it's a part of just a piece of so many of the games that we know and enjoy today, it's definitely not dead. So, that's the question from last week. And now I want to move into a question for this week. I saw a lot of advertisement during Thanksgiving, and then, as I kind of watched some of these, the launches of other games after the Thanksgiving holiday. But we've had the release of GoldenEye Reloaded, and I wanted to ask a question about it, because I got the demo and I played the demo and I thought it was really good. I thought it was really neat how they rebooted it, but rather than talk about all that, which I'll do for the next Weekly Ringer, I wanted to ask you guys a question about it. Now, so remember, folks, that when GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64 came out, it was overwhelmingly popular. I know it was one of the most popular games, if not the most popular games, that I played during the golden age of the Nintendo 64, right? And it was great for so many different reasons, and I won't get into all of them. But there were so many games that came after GoldenEye that were supposed to kind of follow in the footsteps. And there were many of them, whether it be Time Splitters, which was actually made by Free Radical, or whether it was Perfect Dark, that was supposed to be kind of the spiritual successor to GoldenEye. Or whether it comes down to something like today where they're actually remaking the game, or the GoldenEye project for Source, GoldenEye Source, which was an awesome kind of remake of the classic GoldenEye experience. In any case, there have been many attempts to kind of capture the essence of what made GoldenEye so wonderful for the N64. And so my question for you guys is this, for next week's Weekly Ringer. Will any game ever really recapture the essence of GoldenEye 64? In other words, do you think we're going to find the essence? I mean, maybe it's already happened. Maybe you've played GoldenEye Reloaded and it gets it completely right. Maybe you've played some of the remakes over the years and you think that it's really got it. In any case, let's talk about what makes GoldenEye great, and let's talk about if any game is ever going to recapture that kind of feeling and essence for GoldenEye. That's the question for next week's Weekly Ringer. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with, as always. Thank you for watching. I am the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and there is no reset button.